Today, I'll be telling you about how I overcame my severe porn addiction after almost 20 years of being hooked on it, and after trying pretty much every technique, method, accountability system, anything that you can think of out there. And I'll also show you the exact steps that I took that helped me finally break free from it. I watched my first porn when I was 12. I still remember it to this day. I got a CD from a friend at school. I went home. My mom wasn't at home. I put the CD into the computer. I opened the file, super excited, opened the movie, and there was a hardcore porn playing on the screen. It was very weird but exciting at the same time. And I came back to this movie again and again and again. And once we got fast internet at home, I started watching internet porn as well. And that marked the start of a severe porn addiction, where I would watch porn almost daily. During the quieter times, I watched it weekly, but for 20 years, I really came back to it again and again and again, and I really struggled to get rid of it. And it messed with my life in so many ways. It was frying my dopamine system, so I was, constantly chasing the next hit. It messed with my libido and image of intimacy and sex so much that for years, and I'm not kidding, for years, every time I slept with a new woman that I met, I couldn't get it up. And it took me 2 or 3 dates at least to be able to get it up, because my brain was so fried by porn that I couldn't even enjoy sex with a real, tangible, beautiful woman anymore. That's how bad it was. I was skipping sleep for it. I was, watching it instead of working on myself, instead of doing the things that I knew I had to do. It got so bad that I even watched it in public on my phone. I remember sitting somewhere out in public, watching it on my phone, being like, oh, I hope nobody sees this, with the headphones in, pure addict behavior. And the thing is, no matter what I tried, no matter what method, technique, or accountability system, accountability buddies, everything, I've tried it, and nothing really helped in the long run. It helped me mitigate the symptoms and make it a little less severe and stay off of it for a few weeks, but I always fell back into it. So I can clearly say I was addicted to porn severely. And after I changed something in my approach, I can now today proudly say that I overcame it. I haven't watched any in 6 months. I don't even look at images. I don't even read texts anymore, erotic stories, nothing. I stay clear of all of that, and it has improved my life in so many ways. But because I have tried so many times before, I know how hard it is to get rid of it, to get out of it, and I know how the crushing, crippling feeling of shame you experience every time you relapse, and you sit there after you come and you're like, oh shit, well, what have I done again? This is disgusting. I know these feelings. I know these feelings very well. And the funny thing is, I would say that in a way, it's exactly these feelings that can keep you coming back to porn. But more on that later. So what I want to do now is to shine some light on why following a classic no fap, no porn program probably won't work for you in the long run, won't work for most men in the long run, and what you actually can do to finally get rid of your porn addiction for good. And by the way, this will work for any addiction you have. I was also addicted to weed and gaming for years. It works for that as well, because they come down to the same core problem. It just shows in different ways. So the number one thing you need to do to overcome your porn addiction is to find out why you're actually watching it. So you're aware that you're doing it, you're aware you're addicted, but now you need to find out why you're watching it. And now you might say, what the fuck do you mean, Moreno? I'm watching it because it's dopamine, I'm hooked on that, and there's naked bodies, it makes me horny, it's a nice, whatever, stress release. Yes, of course. What I mean by that is that I used porn as a coping mechanism and also a distraction, because I had low self-worth. I lacked intimacy, true, real intimacy and nice, passionate sex in my relationships. I was not courageous enough to talk about these things, to share my fantasies with my girlfriend at the time. I bet she would have been very willing to try, I was under constant stress. I put on myself because I experienced this performance pressure. I grew up like learning that I have to perform all the time, have to be good, have to get the best grades, everything. This created a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And my favorite way to like distract myself from that and actually feel something instead of just functioning like a robot and like feel some connection and intimacy and live out my fantasies and all that was porn. So I invite you to be aware of what you're using porn for. What feelings are you trying to avoid? What are you trying to create? What's the trigger? What are you coping with? What are you distracting yourself from? I'll give you another real quick example. I noticed that whenever at work I was getting to a point where I felt like I couldn't solve a problem, it stressed me out because of my patterns and because I thought, okay, if I can't solve this problem, I'm shit. I'm not worth anything. So whenever that happened, I got really easily distracted, started playing with myself, and then eventually watched porn as a sort of distraction and procrastination from that. So really, that's the first step. You need to find out why you're actually watching it, what you're trying to accomplish with it. And this is, from my experience, something that 99% of programs out there that have to do with like no porn, no fap, and all of that do not address. They go straight into like, how can we change your habits? How can we eliminate triggers? How can we do this? How can we do that? And it's great. It's really great. It's good stuff and you need to do that. But there comes a step before that. And that is the awareness of what is actually going on inside yourself. Because if you don't have that awareness, porn will be incredibly hard to quit. Incredibly hard. Because it provides that that cope, that way out, that little like whiff of what you think is fresh air from the state that you're trying to avoid, that you're trying to get out of. And then it floods your brain with dopamine, which gets you even more hooked. And it also creates these feelings of shame after you watch it. And shame is a very unpleasant feeling, right? So the funny thing, what I noticed in myself, what often happened was that I watched porn, I felt ashamed, and then to cope with that shame, because I would still be feeling it the next day, I watched porn again. So it kept me in that cycle, right? So the first step is become aware of why you're doing it. The second step is stop judging yourself. You relapsed, you watch porn, that's okay. It happens. You're human. Humans make mistakes. It happens. And when you stop judging yourself, you get rid of that shame and you will need less of a cope in the future. By the way, if you look at, for example, groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, they employ the same technique. They also say that, that the shame is often what recreates that addiction. When you stop shaming yourself, it opens up the window to look at the whole situation in an objective way. This means you can now look at what you identified in step one, what you're trying to cope or distract yourself from, the pain that is underneath, and you can address that. Gabor Mate, who is a phenomenal guy, I highly encourage you guys to check out his stuff, says, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. And that's exactly the thing. As long as you have that pain inside of you, you will find more or less healthy or unhealthy way to cope with it. That's what I meant earlier when I said this stuff also works for getting rid of any other addictions. Because, I noticed in myself that when I would quit porn for a few weeks because I was in a new program, I simply shifted my coping, which meant I smoked more weed, I played more games, I ate more sugar, all that kind of stuff. So it's really, the coping mechanism is still there. It just looks another way. So if you really want to get rid of something in the long run, you have to address the underlying pain. And that's exactly what I did. Over the last few months and even years, I did a lot of inner work. I looked at, okay, what are my patterns exactly? What makes me feel bad? Why do I feel like I have to perform all the time? Why do I feel just like a fucking robot going through the motions? Why do I feel disconnected from the women I'm sleeping with, from the women I'm seeing, and all these sorts of things. And step by step, I kind of opened up that Pandora's box and let the things out and looked at them and brought into the light what I had in the shadow before. And it's so funny, during this process, I pretty much completely forgot about my plans to get rid of porn. And I remember I realized one day, I was like, man, I haven't been watching porn in like a month. This is awesome. Let's keep this going. And then, of course, sometimes the year just came back and everything. But then it was much easier for me to say no, because the trigger behind it, the pain behind it was not as big. It was more like an inconvenience. I'm like, yeah, I can sit with this inconvenience instead of, getting back into an addiction. Look, and once you have gone through these first 3 steps, which is the awareness why you're doing it, not judging yourself on it anymore, and addressing the underlying pain, feeling what is there, letting go of these things, then you can stack all the methods and techniques and accountability systems on top, because then these seeds will fall on fertile ground, and I guarantee you it will like 10x your success and progress with that, and will 10x the rate at which you're stepping away from porn, because you've solved the fundamental, the elephant in the room, right? The big blind spot that we all have, which is all the things we keep in the subconscious, but it still drives our decisions. You have gotten rid of that. Like how easy do you think it's gonna be to then just say, yeah, no, I don't need that anymore. And that is why that is so crucial. And I know I'm repeating myself here, but I want to hammer that in your head. You need to address the underlying things. It's gonna make everything easy. It's gonna solve so many problems you have no idea. And this, by the way, isn't just, for me. I see it with my clients again and again and again. I just had a call with a client, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, who was addicted to like scrolling on his phone. That was his form of coping and distracting himself. And we went deep into something. We released what was there. And, he had tried everything before with all the, getting rid of the social media apps and blockers and whatnot. And then within a week, he had 6 hours less screen time in social media apps. 6 hours in a week. And it's sustainable. Like on the last call, he just told me, man, I don't have the urge anymore. I was like, it's great. I don't even have to force myself to not do it. Yeah, exactly. That's the cool thing, and I have experienced that myself right now. Unfortunately, a lot of people out there don't talk about it. And I would really like to share this with you guys, so you can finally find a way out for good as well. Because the thing is, if I can do it after 20 years of severe addiction, you can as well. You just need the right approach. So again, awareness of why you're doing it, stop judging yourself, address the underlying topics, feel the emotions, solve the patterns, let go of the pain. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate that. I'd really like to invite you to drop something in the comments, share your experience, your perspective on porn. It will really help to shine some light on a topic that's usually in the shadow and that has a lot of shame associated with it. And when we bring these things out into the light and speak openly about it, it makes it easier for everyone else who reads it, because we don't feel so alone and ashamed anymore. In any case, if you like the video, hit that like, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, who needs this encouragement. And we're all on a great journey. I'm so happy to do this with you. Let's roll. Let's go. Thank you. All the best to you. Until next time.